The anxiety of multiple layoffs.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. At Schwab, investors get choices ranging from self-directed investing to full-service wealth management all in one place. Learn more at schwab.com. And by Yubico, makers of the YubiKey, securing business applications from phishing for organizations worldwide. YubiKey, powerful protection, instant access. More at yubico.com.
From Marketplace, I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer in for David Brancaccio. Meta announced this week it's laying off hundreds of workers across several divisions, fresh after another round of cuts back in January. If it feels like you're regularly hearing about layoffs in the tech sector, you are not imagining things. The resume site Zeddy did a survey of tech layoff announcements and found almost a third of tech companies did at least 2 rounds of layoffs between 2023 and 2025. Marketplace's Kimberly Adams has more.
Zeddy looked at publicly reported data about more than 1,000 tech companies. Here's Zeddy's Jasmine Escalera.
We saw that almost half of all layoffs come from repeat layoff companies, and 70% of repeat layoffs are actually happening within 12 months.
It's bad enough for the workers left behind after one round of layoffs, with survivor's guilt and all. But Vicky Salemi with job search site Monster says when you have multiple layoffs,
they're thinking, okay, wait a minute, am I next? So there's more anxiety usually, there's more concern, there's just more stress in general.
And that has consequences for the business as well. Sandra Sucher at Harvard Business School says 70% of companies that lay people off see a decline in employee morale in the first year. And
there's a 20% decline in productivity, higher rates of product defects, and in general, a sort of a concern about taking risks.
Because it's hard to do your best work when you're worried the next round of layoffs is coming for you. In Washington, I'm Kimberly Adams for Marketplace.
The Senate has approved a package funding most of the Department of Homeland Security, including the Transportation Security Administration. There is no funding for ICE. The bill now goes to the House for a vote. Let's do the numbers. The Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are down in the 3 to 0.7% range, with the Dow future off 181 points. The 10-year Treasury yield is down at 4.46%.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by GEP. With GEP Key, Agentic AI, and GEP Smart Software, GEP is at the forefront in agentic procurement orchestration and autonomous supply chains. And by Fidelity, a dedicated advisor can help create a comprehensive wealth plan. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC.
2 U.S. senators are calling on the Commerce Department to investigate imports of heavy construction and farm equipment made in Mexico. This comes as a Trump administration review of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement is underway. The USMCA accounts for more than $4 billion worth of cross-border trade. It was an economic cornerstone of President Trump's first term, and it is up for renewal. For more on this, we're joined by Lori Wallach. She's director of the Rethink Trade program at the American Economic Liberties Project, a nonprofit research organization. She's been tracking negotiations. Lori, welcome.
Thank you.
So the USMCA is up for renewal 6 years after it took effect. Of course, it allowed for duty-free trade among the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, but its future is up in the air, partly because it didn't live up to its promises for the U.S.?
Well, it's a little unclear what will happen next. The agreement, which was, something President Trump called incredible and was his biggest success of trade in his first term, has had outcomes that were basically the opposite of what we were promised. So we have fewer manufacturing jobs overall in the U.S. economy than before the USMCA. We have fewer auto manufacturing jobs, and our trade balance with our partners, Mexico and Canada, is much, much bigger. And so that is a set of problems that can be fixed in fixing this agreement, but the president has to decide to do that.
So negotiations have started. Can you tell us where the negotiations are at the moment? I think Mexico is farther along than Canada here.
The 3 countries have started bilateral meetings. Mexico and Canada are not meeting with the U.S. together, but rather U.S.-Canada, U.S.-Mexico. And the meetings with Mexico have gone farther so far. But the really big fixes, the things that are necessary, for instance, the premise of the USMCA replacing NAFTA was we'd have a high standard, higher wage agreement, and we get rid of that trade deficit because workers in Mexico would make more, be able to buy more exports from the US. And so the biggest problem with USMCA remains the direly low wages in Mexico. And that is a scenario that a big renegotiation with some new rules, also to make sure that imports from countries that aren't playing by the rules don't get in, that can fix some of these problems.
So the U.S. and Mexico have a lot to talk about. Where is Canada?
Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. all agreed to put up high tariffs against imports of subsidized trade-cheating Chinese electric vehicles. And that has actually helped within North America to try and solidify creating a supply chain here. And Canada unilaterally dropped that and has proceeded to invite Chinese firms to come in and invest and make Chinese cars in Canada. And that is going to be a huge problem to overcome because there won't be a successful North American auto market without really a North American auto market. And that's going to require these external tariffs.
So I guess USMCA's chances of survival are helped because it has some bipartisan support?
Absolutely. There is a transpartisan interest in getting this agreement and getting North America to be that high wage manufacturing powerhouse that we need. So there is majority support, I would say, in Congress, probably to pass a renegotiated USMCA that fixes some of these structural issues to actually make it deliver the balanced trade and good jobs and higher wages. That was its initial promise.
Lori Wallach is director at Rethink Trade. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our executive producer is Nancy Fergali. Our digital team includes Antoinette Brock, Emily McCune, and Dylan Mietinen. Our engineers are Brian Allison, Tessa Block, and David Schreck. In Washington, I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer with the Marketplace Morning Report. From 8 p.m., American Public Media.